In this session, we'll be talking about US election impact on the stock market and how you can prepare for it. In my view, this year is going to be a tough fight between the Republicans and Democrats, especially with Trump attempting for a comeback. And let's look at the candidates from both sides. Let's start with the Republican side. The candidate is Donald Trump.
We will make America strong again. And we will make America great again. God bless you.
As we all know, Donald Trump is a businessman and he's the former president of the United States. He served as the 45th president of the US from 2017 to 2021. During his term, he has a strong stance on immigration. He tightens the Mexican border, right, the border between US and Mexico, to reduce the number of immigrants, and he signed the Buy American and Hire American executive order. Over his term, Trump has reduced the federal tax and increased federal spending, both of which significantly increased the federal budget deficits and the national debt at that time. So let's look at the impact during his term. This is the US government national debt. It has always been going up, right? The deficit is going up. Majority is because of the social security and military spending. And you can see from the 2017, during the Donald Trump tax cut, the deficit increased further. And of course, this is the steepest increase, which is on the COVID-19. Right? So the tax cut does increase debt burden. However, the justification for tax cut from Donald Trump is such that with the tax cut, the companies have more money and they can invest for expansion, they can hire more people, and more people have jobs. When more people have jobs, they can spend more. And eventually, there will be more tax income for the government. His objective is to create higher wages and more employment opportunities for the US worker. And that's where he wins a lot of vote, especially on the rural area, where a lot of jobs has been moved offshore, right, to China because of lower wages. Right? That's why he still get a lot of support for this. Some may say that because of this, that will drive manufacturing costs up, right? Because the cost in the US manufacturing compared to, let's say, in China and Southeast Asia is definitely going to be higher. And because of that, it will increase the manufacturing costs. As a result of this, it may cause inflation. However, it allows US to have better control when it comes to geopolitical tension. For example, if too much manufacturing is in Taiwan, like TSMC, then if China take over Taiwan, it will cause issues in terms of supply to the US. So in general, if you talk about what's the overall impact to the stock market, right? For the manufacturing costs, we have to be cautious that it may affect the profit margin if this really happens. But it will take some time before you're able to build up new factories, especially when it comes to the semiconductor factories. It's not so easy to shift from one location to another location. On the next point, Donald Trump actually cuts the corporate tax from 35% to 21%, which he intends to boost the corporate investment and economic growth. So what do you think happened to the stock market at that time? Definitely, in 2017 is one of the best years to trade, because the stock markets were very bullish. Right? When you cut tax straight away, it improves the profit margin of the company. That means each share EPS will go up. So usually tax cut cause a bullish stock market. Besides, he also provides tax cut for high net worth individual, right? And high net worth individual is the high spender, and that can also activate the economy, if they spend more. Well, some may argue that this move benefits only the wealthy and create more income inequality. But one thing for sure, this decision has reduced the tax income for the government and led to a significant Federal Reserve deficit and the US national debt. During 2017, the deficit for the government has increased from 20.49 trillion to 34.32 trillion, a whopping 67.5% increase just over the 7 years. So other notable decisions during his term include initiating the trade war with China.
We can't continue to allow China to rape our country, and that's what they're doing.
In 2018, one of the volatile years in the stock market, which I've also experienced, Donald Trump will be tweeting now and then about, sanctions on China. So Donald Trump did mention that he wants to impose a tariff on China way back in early 2018, where the market started to be volatile. But the actual implementation was in July 2018, right? So America imposed 25% tariff on $34 billion worth of Chinese product, which resulted in a significant volatility and uncertainty in the stock market. Right? This higher tariff increased cost of the raw material, squeezing the manufacturer profit margin, and it caused Americans to pay more. Like, there was some debate about this, right? Whether is it bad for China or is it bad for America? In fact, it's seen as a lose-lose deal rather than a win-win deal, right? As you can see from this chart, inflation spiked after Donald Trump initiated the trade war with China. which is actually natural because the cost of goods purchased by American is going to be higher. However, if you really look in detail here, the spike is not as significant as people expected as a result of that. Mainly because it's not across all the sector, doesn't impact, for example, the food and beverage that much. A lot of it is durable goods at that time and semiconductor. However, if you contrast that to COVID-19, right, that's printing significant amount of money, more than $26 trillion worldwide. Central bank are printing that much, definitely caused a much bigger spike. Alright, so what do you think after listening to what Donald Trump is planning, right, when he wins the election? Do you think it will be good or bad for the stock market, right? How do you think the stock market will react? Yeah, tap on the comments below. And now let's move on to the Democrat side. Next, we have the presidential nominee from the Democrat, which is Kamala Harris. So Kamala is a former US Senator from California, and she has served as a Vice President of the United States since 2021 under President Joe Biden. She was born in 1964, currently 60 years old, right? A significant age difference to Trump, right? So 18 years younger. Kamala is the first woman and first Black American and the first Asian American to hold the position of the VP of the United States. And in contrast to Donald Trump, Kamala Harris support increasing corporate tax instead of reducing. So she wants to increase the corporate tax from 21% to 28%. And the reason she wanted to increase the corporate tax is to fund the social programs and, more importantly, to reduce the income inequality. And definitely increasing corporate tax. Some may worry that this will impact corporate profits margin, and of course it will eventually lead to stock price coming down because tax increase straight away impact profit margin, and each earnings per share, right, EPS will go down, means the share price is worth less. As a result of the increased revenue from the government, they will be able to use that money to implement more social programs. But the effect will be a bit later rather than immediate. Unless they use it for infrastructure project or the funding on the research and development to help US to be more competitive, right? Then there will be an advantage later on. However, one thing that's very beneficial for Kamala in this period, if we can consider that probably luck is in her favor, which is we are in the rate reduction cycle, right? The Federal Reserve of US already have a plan to reduce interest rate over time, as long as inflation is in control. On one hand, we may have a negative impact to stock price because of the tax hike, which reduce the profit margin. But on the other hand, the rate reduction actually is bullish for the stock market. Interest rate reduction causes company to be spending less on interest rates. So especially for those companies that has more loans, right, they will have more disposable income to spend more. So it's sort of contra each other. But overall, the rate cut cycle is going to potentially override some of the negative effect for the tax increase, mainly because the overall rate cut over time will help improve not just the individual consumer spending, but also the corporate spending. On the other hand, Harris has also shown great commitment in addressing the climate change. Right? This is one of the big contrasts between Donald Trump and Kamala, and also in general, Republican and Democrat. So in general, Democrat actually support green energy, anything to help preserve the earth. We will see more likely the higher investment in the renewable energy sector. While during the Donald Trump era, he actually withdrew from the 2015 Paris Agreement because he prioritized the country's oil and coal industry, right? So-called the dirty energy, and he denies the climate change and he even called it a hoax.
President Trump believes climate change is a hoax.
So Obama's talking about all of this with the global warming and that, and a lot of it's a hoax. It's a hoax.
And after the recent presidential debate, many believe that Kamala beat Trump, and a few of the clean energy related stocks actually went up, right? For example, the First Solar, FSLR, and also the 10 ETF. However, you need to be careful when you invest or trade. This is not advocating to trade these stocks because first of all, you need to make sure that you understand the fundamentals and you know how to time the entry exit and hazard protection. Like 10 ETF, which consists of a lot of the clean energy stocks, has a lot of stocks that are not very consistently profitable. So, and First Solar does go up these days because of the government initiative and also the subsidy. But what if the subsidy go away one day, right? So if you treat it as a trend trade, short-term trade, then it's fine. So that's a quick one of the nominees from Republican and Democrats. Are you ready to take your trading to the next level? With the right strategies, you can actually start picking quality stocks and managing the risk like a professional. At Beyond Insights, we develop a systematic, versatile, and safe framework to help traders make smarter decisions and grow your investment. Why systematic is very important? Because without systematic process, you will not be able to repeat it. And why versatile? The market is dynamic, right? You can see election years versus non-election year, and who wins, that will change the market. But more importantly, it needs to be safe. You have a strict money management. So I'm inviting you to join our free 3-hour webinar where you will learn how to systematically do this, right? Which is how to find quality stocks, we call it select, right? How to find high growth potential companies, and how to be versatile for different kind of market scenario. And last but not least, to master risk management to ensure that your reward outweighs your risk and you can sleep with peace of mind. So click on the link in the description below to join our free 3-hour webinar and start to learn how to trade or invest smarter. Alright, let's dive into Trump trade and the Kamala trade. Some traders or investors, they are speculating on who will win the election, right? By positioning themselves in the stocks based on the potential policy of each candidate. Currently, the market believes that if Trump wins, he's likely to bring back the same policy he has during his first term, especially when he also mentioned about that. So, if Trump wins, these are the 4 key sectors to watch out for. One is the energy sector, right? Because Trump's support for deregulation, and he will go back to what we call the dirty energy, the fossil fuel industry that could benefit the traditional energy stocks like oil, natural gas, and coal company. However, you need to be cautious on this sector, right? Because the longer term demand for this energy will go down mainly because of the clean energy demand, right? So for short-term trade is fine, but not for long-term. Let's look at the reaction from last Trump win, like in 2016 November, reaction after the election. Right, so you can see that the XLE, which represents the energy ETF, right? A lot of that is oil and gas company like ExxonMobil, Chevron, Schlumberger, and so on, actually went up first. But what I want to highlight to you from this stock chart, you can see that after the increase, it actually went down. Okay, mainly because in the long term, do you think oil price will go up or go down in the long term? Okay, because we have a move towards clean energy, towards EV. Right, so the overall demand in the long term you can expect to trend down compared to before. Right, so this is more of a short-term trade rather than a long-term investment. So you need to be very cautious when you actually go for Trump trades or Kamala trades. People call it. You need to understand the industry itself. What is the bigger driver rather than just trade because of Trump win or Kamala win. Let's look at the FSLR, which is representing the clean energy. Right, what happened when Trump win during that time? Before that, the solar stock has also been very volatile because of the China competition, right, and the subsidy from the China government. So let's look at it, right? When Trump win around this time, people already anticipated the Trump win at time, and it actually gapped down first. Right, after that, it did recover a little bit, but after that, it went down further. So this is also aligned with when Trump win, he's not so inclined to support the clean energy. So this is just to show you some potential reaction, which may potentially repeat. Let's look at the next one, which is defense and military, right? Usually when Republicans win, compared to Democrats, Republicans tend to spend more on military, although both will also be, does support military spending to at least protect the United States, right? So during Trump's first term, he actually boosted the defense budget as well as that also benefited all those related industry like the contractors and so on. If you look at the 2016 end, when he won the election, right, there's a significant uptrend for LMT, right? And there's another stock which is the RTX. Yeah, right after he won, like in late 2016, right, the RTX and LMT went up. However, you always need to put in context, right? Right now, we already have a war for quite some time, and these stocks have gone up quite a while. Like the potential upside, maybe not as much compared to before. Let's look at the LMT right now, right? It has already gone quite bullish earlier, right? It has broke up around above this level due to the war that has been happening for quite some time. And so right now, there could be profit taking if there's any significant ceasefire, right? Unless the war continue, because it's already priced in, right? So you need to be more cautious and make sure that you have the right money management. So let's talk about the next sector, which is industrial and infrastructure. Trump's focused a lot of infrastructure projects during his last term, and he has this America First policy, which could benefit industry, construction material, right? Because you want to bring back a lot of factories back into the US. So when you bring back the factories, you need to construct factories, right? And that will also benefit the whole ecosystem on the supply chain, like that on the raw material for the factories as well. Let's look at financial as the next sector. Right, Trump's focus on deregulation on the financial sector, and this would favor banks and financial institutions because that will be less administrative burden for them, right? With the lesser regulatory environment, it gives them more room for innovation in terms of their product and services. Let's look at the last time when Trump wins. As represented by the XLF, there's a huge significant uptrend as a result of his win. Right? This one is very clear correlation compared to what I showed you earlier. But let's look at the current stock price here. It's more on sideways to up. Because right now we have two aspects that's affecting the financial market. One is the FOMC, right, the Fed rate cut compared to the election influence. So when these two are mixed, then it will not be very clear cut. However, the reduction of rates by the FOMC will also support the overall stock market and the finance sector because it makes it more affordable for people to get housing loan. More people may buy properties or get business loan. That will also help the banking sector. Next, let's talk about housing sector. So both Republican and Democrats supportive in terms of the housing sector, but just that they implement differently, right? So for Trump, he wanted to subsidize the tax rate for first-time home buyer, and this will actually make it more affordable for first-time home buyer. If you look at the chart here, which is XLRE, Real Estate Sector ETF, right? It's actually trending up already. One of the most important thing about trading or investing is you need to make sure that a lot of the positive news are not already priced in, right? Otherwise, by the time the news come in, it could be a correction, right? Looking at this from July onwards, right? This sector is already trending up. The main reason for this to trend up at that time was because of the Federal Reserve interest rate cut anticipation. Not so much because of the election. But the election can also enhance it even further because both sides also supportive of making housing more affordable, right? So I would say that this is one of the more conviction trade. I would rather choose something to trade that is more aligned. No matter who wins, it will still be aligned. And on top of that, the Fed is supportive of that. Don't you think it's better this way? So I'd rather choose the sector or the industries or the type of stocks where it will benefit no matter who wins. On top of that is also supported by the FOMC decision. And some specific stocks related to this is on housing. For example, we have Lena and also DHI. These are some of the home builders, right? Home builders will benefit from the tax rate reduction plus some of the incentives that is supported by either Trump win or Kamala win. So some of the important aspect to consider if Trump win, right? If you are gearing towards a Trump win, Trump typically will add a lot of uncertainty to the stock market, compared to Democrats, because first of all, he's more abrupt in terms of his comments and his tweets. When Trump continue, he has already expressed that he will be tougher on China, right? Much more tougher to the extent that even like 60%, and he'll even mention 100% tariff on China. This is going to significantly add volatility to the stock market and uncertainty, and also increase spending that could further inflate the federal deficit, and this can weaken the US dollar and also may impact the long-term economic stability. Now, let's come to Kamala Trade, right? What is Kamala policy and initiatives? There are a few important areas that she focuses on. One is healthcare. She supports expanding the Affordable Care Act that started during Obama time and followed by Biden, and now just to continue, she has expressed the interest in Medicare for all system, right? Make it more affordable, and her support in making healthcare more accessible, and also that will impact the company in the healthcare sector. But this impact is a bit tricky to evaluate because on one hand, they want to reduce the drug price, right? Reducing drug price, what do you think will be the impact? Definitely, if you're the drug producer, right, the drug price, if it's going to be lower, then it will impact the profit margin. On the other hand, if you are the insurance company, right, the claims could be lower. Okay, so that's one benefit. Then if you're on the healthcare, it will also benefit if the government have a subsidized healthcare. So you need to be very careful in terms of which aspect of healthcare you're looking at. It's not generic across the board. So the healthcare is represented by the XLV ticker, right, the healthcare ETF. But inside XLV, there's a mix of company. So I would say the healthcare is not a very direct beneficial trade compared to what I mentioned earlier, like the real estate. Alright, then next come to climate change. Harris has been very vocal proponent on aggressive climate action. She supports legislation that invests in renewable energy and infrastructure to combat climate change and also reduce the carbon emission. As you can see, right after the presidential debate where Kamala is leading, you can see some spike in some of the clean energy ticker. The debate is on 10 September. On the next day, First Solar gap up. Like, this is not a recommendation to buy First Solar It just show you the impact of that. In fact, you're an intraday trader, you will benefit on the next day. You don't have to keep, for long trade. I would say that this is more for short-term swing trade to trend trade, because clean energy is a very, very competitive market, whether it's on solar system or in EV. You can see that there's so many EV companies in China itself competing in the market, and the price keep getting lower and lower, which means it will impact the profit margin. Next, let's talk about the economy, right? What will happen if Harris wins? Harris' economic policy emphasizes on increasing the minimum wage. Typically, it's not so good for stock market because it erodes profit margin. It is a chicken and egg, right? Although it's more expensive for the company, but it make it more affordable for the small and medium income group, right? Give them more disposable income, so they end up having more money to spend. What will the impact to the stock market? We need to cautious of those stocks that are very sensitive to minimum wage. Those are the companies that hire a lot of people in the manufacturing sector. For example, Amazon, Walmart, Target, Costco, they hire a lot of people that are falling into this category. So if this minimum wage is implemented, just watch out for potential adjustments to the stock price for these companies. But also for companies like Microsoft, they hire high-tech workers, they won't be affected by this that much. Next is housing, which is one of the bigger impact area. Harris actually wanted to build 3 million houses, right, to make it more affordable. And of course, just imagine building 3 million houses. Which sector would it benefit? Right, definitely the construction sector, right, home builders, right, that's very straightforward. One of the very important part about housing and infrastructure, it has a chain reaction to the economy. When you build a house, what else do you need? Right, you need to renovate it, right? You need to buy furniture, you need to buy electronics, you need transportation to bring the goods, so it's expanded to the lorry drivers. It also the all those related to transportation like oil and gas as well. So it has a very good chain reaction. So I like anything to do with infrastructure and housing stimulus. On top of that, she actually introduced an incentive on first-time buyer receive a subsidy of $25,000. Right? She hasn't mentioned any expiry date, right? But if there's an expiry date, then people will want to make sure that they don't miss out on this. That will trigger a lot of first-time home buyers, as opposed to Trump. Right? Trump mentioned that he wants to have a subsidized tax rate for first-time home buyer, but he did not mention how much. Whereas Kamala was very specific about it. However, one thing you need to understand is all this proposal doesn't mean it get approved by the Senate and the Congress, right? There's still an approval process, right? This is something that can gain her votes, but for those who understand more detail, it's not so straightforward to implement because the Congress has a majority of Republican, whereas the Senate is more like half-half, but the incoming president can do the final veto vote, sometimes depending on what is the composition by that time. But in general, right now, it does cause the rally for this sector. You can see that the LEN and also DHI, which represent home builder, is going up, and XLRE, which is a real estate ETF. I would say many things are aligned, whether Trump wins, whether Kamala wins, right? There's something, the positive incentive for this sector. Plus, we have the rate cuts, which also help the housing sector. Based on the latest poll statistics, which is as of September 25th, Kamala is leading, and it's quite a significant lead, which is 4 points higher. And that's why you can see that the stock market already reacted to what is more positive if Kamala wins. And in general, if Kamala wins, it will create more stability for the stock market. Main reason is it's more predictable. The market likes predictability. If Donald Trump wins and he have tax cut, stock market can rally more, but it also add on to the volatility. Overall, Kamala win, there's some negative impact from tax increase, right? But it promotes more stability. Which one do you think people will like if it's you as an investor? Right? I would prefer more stability because it's more predictable. Right? If you have more predictability, then you know how to strategize better rather than a lot of unknown. I personally hope that Kamala will win. If you're enjoying content like this and you find educational, don't forget to click a like, share with your friends, and also subscribe to our channel so that we'll notify you for future session. And don't forget to turn on the notification or the bell icon. And I also like to get more feedback from you on what you would like to understand more. Comment below on what other topics you would like to watch in future videos.